So now on to video number 2 that I'm doing today. Just find my notes. Sorry, here we are. Now, recently, I came across an article on Twitter. It was while I was on Twitter, because I often go on Twitter to sort of unwind and things towards the end of the day. And Twitter is a great place for finding articles and other things. And I came upon this article in a conversation magazine, which you can read online, called Here, and it was titled, I'll put this in the link below so you can check it out if you want to, Here's a Mental Health Workout That's as Simple as ABC. Now what they're referring to is something called the Act, Belong and Commit campaign. The Act, Belong, Commit campaign. Now this campaign is an Australian initiative to improve mental well-being, and it sounds very interesting, so I went and had a read of this article and I took some notes. I'm a little bit sceptical because I'm not sure that mental health is really as simple as you know, as all this. You know, can you really reduce mental health to a simple ABC panacea? But you know, that aside, I mean, I'm a naturally quite a kind of sceptical person about things anyway. I do tend to think, you know, I'm not sure if this is all as simple as that. But nevertheless, it is still very interesting. And some of the ideas are worth taking on board, I think. Now, the A in the Act, Belong, Commit campaign stands for keeping active, for B for building stronger relationships with friends, family and community groups, and for C is for committing to hobbies, challenges and meaningful causes. On www.actbelongcommit.org, I'll put the web link below, so again you can check it out if you're interested. You can take a self-assessment test to see how well you score on overall well-being and for each of the 3 domains. It is an Australian website, because as I say, this campaign is an Australian initiative, and I think it's taking place, I think there might be a few other countries where it might be taking place as well. I'm not sure if it's taking place in the UK or if people are even aware of it in the UK. So it is an Australian site, but it's, you know, it's still very accessible. I took the test, and I got an overall well-being score of 39. Now, you are scored between 0 to 49, that's the kind of range, if you like, and the higher the score, the greater your well-being. So, my guess is that 39 is a reasonably good score, so, you know, I was quite pleased with that. And then you're given a score for each of the 3 domains. So, I scored 19 for ACT, and a score of 14 or more on that domain is good. So I'm clearly doing something right in this domain. Now the ACT domain is about keeping alert and engaged by keeping mentally, socially, spiritually and or physically active. It could be in either of those, any one of those 4 areas, if you like. So someone might be very mentally active, but they might not be so active socially, and I guess that might be the case for the majority of autistics, and that's absolutely fine. The key is that in at least one of those areas you are acting, and certainly in my case, I act more in a mental capacity, maybe a bit in a spiritual capacity, although I'm not religious or anything. I am quite a spiritual person, you know, I think quite deeply about things and stuff like that. I often contemplate. And physically active, maybe I could be a little bit more physically active. I mean, I certainly get out for a walk every day. I think that's important. I think the government recommends that you go for a 30-minute walk most days, and I do try and do that, even though it's only around my town. You know, I do endeavour to get out every single day for a walk. It's not always easy for me, and I certainly could maybe try and do a bit more exercise, but I do try. So as I say, different people might vary in terms of how they act, and autistic people might find more satisfaction via their solitary interests than through acting socially, because it's a very individual thing. So I read a lot of books, and I'm always seeking to stimulate my intellect. I also try and get out, as I've already mentioned, for a walk every day. Now, certain aspects of the ACT domain might be off limits to many autistic people, such as the emphasis of working in teams with others. There is a lot of emphasis here on the social side, and I think that just reflects a sort of, in inverted commas, neurotypical or non-autistic bias. And I don't know if this is always, you know, an autistic person taking a self-assessment questionnaire, they might get a lower score maybe than they might expect, because it is, a lot of it is emphasis, there is a lot of emphasis on the social side. and socialising might be more important to non-autistic than it is for autistics in terms of mental well-being. And actually, for some autistic people, too much socialising could actually be detrimental to their mental well-being. It certainly has in my case. I need to get that balance right. I mean, I don't particularly like group work, and so working in teams is actually not good for my overall mental health. But, there are other ways of acting, as I say. You could take part in a sport, reading a book, going to see films, or travelling for pleasure are all possible activities. And on a spiritual dimension, you might act spiritually via meditation. I don't do meditation myself because I don't have concentration for it. But, things like embracing nature, I do embrace nature, so that could be like a more spiritual activity. Listening to music, dancing in your living room even. Now, in the belong domain, I scored 10 out of a range of 9 to 13. This means I'm doing well, actually, but I could do more. But again, I think that's because I'm autistic, and a lot of it is because, obviously I don't do too many social activities. Now, the belong domain emphasises friendships, joining groups, and participating in community activities. By doing this, you can find sources of support, and you can build a positive sense of identity. Now, because I am autistic, I struggle to make and maintain friendships. I always have done. I find friendships really complicated and difficult to understand. The whole notion of friendships is just really difficult for me. And all through my life, I've really struggled relating to people and found it very complex and very difficult. So that area is something I'm obviously going to struggle with. But I do try to attend a couple of groups for autistic people. So that's one way in which I can find a sense of belonging. Now, the belong domain also includes online social activity, which is more accessible to autistics. So by joining an online community, such as Twitter, Facebook, and there are various autism-friendly forums, and the National Autistic Society's got one in the UK, you can feel a sense of belonging and feel that you are a part of something. I think that the belong domain could be most difficult for autistic people to access, and we often suffer from a lack of belonging. I know I do, certainly, because of our neurological difference. We can often feel quite alienated and apart from society, and this might be part of the reason why we do often have mental health problems and low self-esteem. I have low self-esteem. I think most autistic people probably do to some extent, and this is why it is so important that we are facilitated to participate in forums of our choosing, or find groups of people who share our particular interests. But I think that's probably the case for many marginalised groups as well, not just autistics, who can struggle to find a sense of belonging. Finally, in a commit domain, I scored 8 within a range of 0 to 8, where the higher the score for lesser commitment. Now, this means I could definitely improve. Now, this score actually really surprised me. It really did, because I think I actually commit to several activities, and I do actually think I have a very strong sense of commitment. I'm a very conscientious person. But for questionnaire, as I've already mentioned, it is quite biased towards non-autistic people, with a heavy emphasis on social commitments, such as helping neighbours. I'm not a particularly socially motivated person because I'm autistic, and I find that really difficult. So no, I'm not going to be a person who's really out there and trying to help people. Not because I don't want to help people or don't care about people, just because that's really exhausting for me, because I find social so difficult. But there are other ways of committing. It could also be learning something new, and I do that a lot. I often try and learn new things. I think I do very well here. I'm always trying to challenge myself in terms of trying to get out of my comfort zone, as much as my autism allows. Not easy, but I do try. Committing could be taking up a cause, such as volunteering. I've done quite a lot of volunteering in the past, not so much at the moment, but I have done a lot in the past. And I do this YouTube channel, for example, I guess is a form of commitment, and writing my blog, and other ways in which I try and branch out and reach out to the world in the ways I can. They're all forms of commitment. You could commit to a hobby. I commit myself to my cooking, for example. It's very important to me. That's my source of ikigai, as the Japanese would call it, my life purpose. Committing helps to build self-worth and a feeling of competence, and gives life meaning and purpose, which is crucial for our mental well-being. So you could learn a new skill or take up a challenge. I do think my score should be pretty good for this one, but the questions overtly emphasise social commitments, hence my lower score. So, what do you think about the ABC mental health construct? As I mentioned, I will post a link to the self-assessment and article below. I think, as I've already mentioned earlier, that mental health is far more complex than to be reducible to a simple ABC panacea, and I suspect that autistic people will require different solutions. A lack of a sense of belonging is likely to be pivotal for the autistic population and other marginalised groups. So please let me know your thoughts. What do you think is important to build good mental health? And do you think you do currently do any of the ABC things that I've mentioned? So until next time then, thank you for watching.